All right, welcome back to the channel. Today is the day before I start my January World Carnivore Month diet. What does that mean? That means that since yesterday we talked about basically the best ways to get started and have the most success psychologically, physically, otherwise with cravings and so on and so forth, one of the main things I did not talk about yesterday was poop. If you got small kids who giggle every time the word poop is said, bring them into the room. If you have any family members that are sensitive to this, we should be talking about our poops, people. Very important. So, in today's video, let's talk about poops on the carnivore diet specifically. Let's talk about the myth of fiber. You do not need fiber. It is not a nutrient. It is not cellulose, basically. It's something we can't even physically break down. Now, I know there's soluble fiber and non-soluble fiber, and that's a topic for a totally different day. But for the purposes of this video, you do not need fiber. And you definitely do not need fiber to poop. So let's talk about some of the main points and things you hear about with the carnivore diet, right? People talk about explosive diarrhea, really thick, not thick, I would want to say almost like thin, sticky, black. I call it the tar phase. So when you start the carnivore diet, there's a few things you need to know before you start it so that you're prepared. And these are the main things. These are the main things in order. In the first few days, right? Especially if you're doing what we talked about yesterday, if you're fasting for the first day to 24 hours to 48 hours, you're looking at a period of time where everything in your entire gut microbiome, we'll make another video talking about what the gut microbiome is, but essentially, in short, it is trillions of organisms, teeny tiny good bacteria and bad bacteria in your entire digestive tract. Now, our body interacts with those. It sends and creates neurotransmitters, signals to the brain, so on and so forth. But it has a very, very integral part, symbiotic relationship with our human body. And they're very important. But what is also very important is that when you eat certain things in certain ways, your actual balance, let's say. We don't want to be, like, if your balance is off, it's called gut dysbiosis. There we go. Gut dysbiosis. So when you have gut dysbiosis, that means that the balance of the good ones, the ones we want, the ones that help us, and the bad ones that kind of harm us or hurt our gut lining is off balance. And so eating more carbohydrate, sugar, yeast, breads, all of these things can actually end up making us have too much of a bad bacteria. It can cause brain fog, it can cause all these other issues, right? So for the purpose of the poop video, you have good bacteria in your gut and you have bad bacteria in your gut. And what we're trying to do in this beginning phase is kill off all of the bad bacteria, right? We're gonna rob them of their source of food. So things like candida, things like yeast, parasites, any of these things that are feeding off of carbohydrate, sugar, glucose, any of that stuff, they're all gonna die. So one of the things to know at the very beginning of the carnivore diet is you will probably have a die-off reaction. This is one of the ways that you can end up with diarrhea and these sorts of things. Now, the cool thing about having a die-off reaction, and the other couple of things we're gonna go over, is that when you get the diarrhea or explosive squirts or whatever people have told you on the internet and you're scared of, there's no pain. And I need you to understand that you have to pay attention to this. If you have explosive diarrhea or the black tarry poop or lots of wiping in the first week to 2 weeks, remember to pay attention if there's pain or discomfort. Because if there's no pain or discomfort, that means it's good. I know detoxifying is like a tag word that's thrown around all the time, but you're basically detoxing your gut in this beginning phase, right? The second thing that may lead to diarrhea, these tar poops and so on and so forth, is there's a certain layer of the inside of your colon and parts of your intestine that are covered in fiber that's fermenting and kind of all these other bits and pieces of the carbs that you've been eating, and they ferment and they grow and they hold onto water. So you'll notice you're gonna actually poo a lot of water out, and this is normal. And the reason it's normal and you want it is, A, again, pay attention. Did I feel discomfort? Was it uncomfortable? Did it bother me? It probably won't, and that's how you know it's a good thing. If you ever, our body has these incredible defense mechanisms built in and these incredible adaptability. And so what it means is that it's prepared for this stuff. If you switch your diet, think about your dogs or your cats. Have you ever switched their food? What happens every time? There's usually an adjustment period, right? They end up pooing more, peeing more, whatever the case is. They have diarrhea for a few days and they get used to the food. And that's their gut microbiome. And it's also their systems of digestion. It's, how much hydrochloric acid are they able to build up? It's, how many digestive enzymes, proteins, and all these, anything ASE is going to be an enzyme. So if you ever see the back of a bottle of enzymes for digestive enzymes for food, that sort of thing, you're going to see these things, protease and lipase and all of them. And, they each mean they break down fat or they break down protein specifically. Now, your body makes all of this stuff. So very important. For the purposes of this talk, I don't want to spend 45 minutes going deep into the weeds, but all of that fiber, all of that water, all of that fermented stuff in your entire lower intestine, it's all going to kind of sludge away. It's going to fall out, and you're going to have some gross poops. You may even smell things that you've never smelled before come out of your toilet, and that is fine. Pay attention. For the most important thing I can drive home, pay attention to how you feel when you poo these poos. Even if they're emergency poos, there's a huge difference between IBS and whatever. Like, what's the main word in IBS? The operative word is irritable, right? Irritable bowel disease. If you have Crohn's disease, if you have any of these other inflammatory bowel diseases, this is the diet for you. Taking the fiber completely out of the diet is going to help you have the best poops of your life, the least uncomfortable, the most comfortable poops of your life. This diet will change your life when it comes to how you interact with the toilet. Okay, so we talked about a die-off reaction where all kinds of bad bacteria, candida, and these things that are harming you, giving you brain fog, messing up your life will all die off, right? Okay, so that's one component. The second component we talked about is the fact that you may have bits and pieces of you of fermented old food and fiber and all these things, all these acids and stuff holding water, bloating you. All of that's going to fall off. Another thing that's going to happen is your bloating in general. Your body will start dumping water. Now, does it only pee? No, it kind of comes out everywhere. I don't know what the science is. Don't quote me on that, but you will pee more. You may poo liquid. It's gonna be okay. Pay attention to how you feel. Does your butt hurt? No, not unless you wipe too much. So let's talk about the timeline. The timeline of this is typically around day 3 to 7 is when your body kind of gets used to adapting to fat and so on and so forth, and you're eating much more nutrient-dense food. So because you're eating all these nutrients and there's not a lot of waste, you may not poop. And it's very common in the very beginning. This will be tip number 3 or 4. Who knows what I'm on now? But your body may not poop, and that's okay. It's not constipation. You're eating so much food, real nutrition, that your body doesn't have enough waste. Like, I think I read a paper years ago when I was into the paleo diet and CrossFitting and stuff, and I started trying to build a nutrition website the first time. I think I read a study that said something like 97% of every part of an egg, when you eat it, gets absorbed. So that means you'd only have 3% waste, right? When you eat a piece of bread or you eat vegetables, kale, any of these terrible vegetables that are basically undigestible, you're eating mostly fiber. So of course you're gonna have these huge poops, right? That's normal. So frequency on this diet, you may only poo once a day, or you may only poo once every other day for a few days, but it is normal. Pay attention to how you feel. And then the final thing I want to talk about, and we'll wrap it up and I'll get you back on with your day. Happy New Year, by the way. This video should be airing on the 2nd, the day that I'm actually going to start the diet again. I do a reset every year, and I typically start with Lion or something very strict like BBBE, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs type of a thing. So the wife and I are going to do that normal reset. And the final point that I want to bring up is the quality of your poops, okay? The final thing, the quality of your poops. Your poops should be round and firm and a little squishy, and they should come right out. You shouldn't have to do a bunch of wiping. If you've ever been on a plant-based diet, you know every now and then you have to do a lot of wiping. I used to go through tons of toilet paper, and I don't anymore. So that is the most important final thing for me to tell you. I can't think of anything else about poops that's important. In the beginning, try to eat more meat and less butter, fat, grease. I don't want to get into the mechanics of it, but the more meat you eat, the more nutrients you'll get, the less fat and waste there is, right? Your body and your gut are going to have to get used to digesting fat. Fat is the harder thing to adapt to physically eating. Now remember, if you're doing this diet for weight loss and health, you've got stored body fat, right? So you don't literally need to eat a bunch of fat to be successful on this diet. You need to eat a bunch of protein and meat. The protein, the meat itself, is where the majority of the essential amino acids and nutrients and vitamins and minerals that you need to survive as a human and thrive as a human. They are in the meat. In the beginning, eat more meat. Don't go lean. Don't add extra fat. Just for that first couple of weeks until you get used to your poops, eat the meat. Peace. I appreciate you, everybody. Share this video, like, subscribe, comment below. I'll meet you in the comments. Let's blow this channel up and let's save a bunch of people's health. I really, really want to get this message out, so I appreciate you. Have a great day. Peace.